The quiet hum of Earth's space station was broken by a sudden alert. A signal, faint and barely detectable, came through the vast void of space. It wasn't from any known source. The signal was old, perhaps ancient, and filled with static, but it was unmistakably there. A few researchers at the station stared at their screens in disbelief. They had been scanning for deep space communications, but nothing like this had ever shown up before. Dr. Elena Diaz, the chief researcher at the station, was the first to notice the anomaly. She leaned forward, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The signal wasn't like anything they had encountered. It wasn't a human transmission, and it didn't come from any nearby star systems. It seemed to be a distress call, one that had traveled across the galaxy to reach them, decades, maybe even centuries, after it was first sent. "Can you trace it?" a voice asked from behind her. It was Captain Harris, the commander of the station. Elena shook her head. "I can't. It's too fragmented. But there's something strange about it." The captain stepped closer, peering at the screen. "What do you mean, strange?" Elena hesitated for a moment before replying. "The language. It's not one we've encountered before. But somehow, I think it's a warning. A warning about Earth." The captain raised an eyebrow. "A warning? From who?" That was the question no one could answer. Who was sending this message? And why now, after so many years? The signal continued to pulse on the screen, weak but persistent. The researchers worked quickly to decode it, but the transmission was filled with gaps and static, as though it had been damaged during its long journey. It didn't help that the technology used to send it was completely different from anything Earth had seen. The signal was a mix of old and new, as if it had been sent by a civilization far beyond their own, yet in a form that humans could barely understand. "There's something off about this," Elena said. "I feel like there's more to this signal than we can see." As they worked, the pieces of the puzzle began to come together, though the picture was still incomplete. A few words here and there were readable, but most of the message was a mystery. The researchers were able to translate part of it, and what they discovered chilled them. The first few lines were clear enough. "We thought Earth was just a distant world, a forgotten place, a prison. We were wrong. Never wake Earth." That was it. The message cut off there, but the implication was clear. Someone, or something, had known about Earth for far longer than humanity had realized. Earth was not just a planet in the vast expanse of space. It had some sort of dark significance that was hidden from the human population. Captain Harris stood in silence as he absorbed the words on the screen. "What do you think this means, Dr. Diaz?" Elena didn't answer right away. She was still processing the message. It was unsettling. The tone of the transmission was one of regret, of fear. Whoever had sent it seemed to be trying to warn humanity, but why? And why now? "It's a warning," Elena said finally. "But a warning about what? What do they mean by never wake Earth?" The captain paced back and forth. "Whoever sent this message seems to think Earth is important, more important than we realized." Elena agreed but was hesitant to jump to conclusions. "I'm not sure. This could be a threat, or it could be some kind of warning. A trap, a lie, or something far worse." Another researcher, Lieutenant Grant, stepped up beside them. "If this is a warning, we need to investigate. We need to know who sent it, and why." Elena nodded slowly. "Yes, but this could also be bigger than we think. Whatever this is, we need to be careful." The signal continued to beep softly in the background, its strange message hanging over them. The words echoed in Elena's mind. "Never wake Earth." What could it mean? Was Earth just another forgotten planet in the galaxy, or was it a key to something much larger, something the universe had hidden for a reason? Captain Harris glanced at the screen one last time. "We need to find out who sent this message and why. But we need to be cautious. This could be a matter of life and death for us all." With that, the crew of the space station set to work. They began searching the database for any information about the message's origin. But there was nothing. No other records, no clues, no references. Whoever had sent it had covered their tracks well. But Elena felt something gnawing at her. There was something about this message that didn't sit right with her. Whoever sent it had known far more than they were letting on. And the warning was clear. Earth had been asleep for far too long. And now, it seemed, it was time to wake up. As the team worked tirelessly through the night, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What if Earth was not just a planet in the galaxy? What if it was something far more important, something the rest of the galaxy had been trying to hide for centuries? The transmission may have been the first, but Elena knew it wouldn't be the last. And so began humanity's journey into the unknown. They had no idea what they were about to awaken. The team continued their work late into the night, the hum of the space station now accompanied by a new sense of urgency. Elena Diaz couldn't shake the eerie feeling that the message was far more than just a random distress signal. Each word seemed to carry a weight, a hidden meaning, and every researcher at the station was on edge. The captain, Harris, stood at the back of the control room, his arms crossed, deep in thought. What are we dealing with here, Elena? What's the real story behind this message? Elena stared at the blinking screen, her mind racing. The words "Never Wake Earth" echoed in her mind, each time feeling more significant than before. She turned to her team of researchers. We've got to find out who sent this message. We need to learn everything we can about the civilization that could have sent it. But as Elena looked back at the screen, something caught her attention. A new pattern was emerging in the data, one that hadn't been there before. It was faint but unmistakable. There was another signal buried deep within the noise, an encrypted code that had gone unnoticed until now. Elena, look at this, said Grant, the junior officer who had been scanning the data. Elena leaned over his shoulder. The new signal was hidden in the static of the original message, and it appeared to be a set of coordinates. The numbers were strange, alien, even. They didn't match any known system within human charts, but they were too specific to be a coincidence. Coordinates? Where do they lead? Captain Harris asked, walking up to the screen. Elena's fingers hovered over the keyboard as she decoded the information. The coordinates pointed to a distant part of the galaxy, far beyond any human exploration, a place on the edge of known space, unexplored and shrouded in mystery. It was a spot on the map that no one had ever considered important. But why would someone send a message from that far out? And why would they want to warn Earth? Could it be a trap? Harris mused, his voice filled with doubt. Elena took a deep breath. It's possible. But it's also possible that whoever sent this message is trying to help. They're giving us a chance to avoid something terrible, something the galaxy is trying to hide. Grant spoke up, a mixture of excitement and fear in his voice. We need to go there. We need to find out what's waiting for us. The idea sent a ripple of tension through the room. The coordinates pointed to a place that could be dangerous, a place where no one knew what lay in wait. But if the message was genuine, they had no choice but to investigate. We can't ignore this, Elena said, her mind made up. If we do, we might never understand what Earth's true role in the galaxy is. We could be walking straight into something bigger than us. But if this message is to be believed, Earth has been important to someone for a long time. Harris nodded. Then it's settled. We'll need to prepare an expedition to that location. But we'll need to tread carefully. There's no telling what we're going to find. With that, the crew began preparations to send a mission to the coordinates. The space station buzzed with activity as the team gathered their resources. Elena couldn't help but feel the weight of what they were about to do. Every decision felt crucial now. The future of Earth itself might depend on what they uncovered. The mystery of the message had deepened, but so had the sense of urgency. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited them at those coordinates wasn't just a clue. It was the key to something far larger. As the team prepared to leave the station and begin their journey, Elena paused for a moment, gazing out at the stars. The silence of space was overwhelming. What had Earth been missing all this time? What secrets lay hidden in the darkness? The warning had been clear, but the answers were still out there, waiting to be uncovered. And Elena knew that once they embarked on this mission, nothing would ever be the same again. Whatever Earth's role in the galaxy truly was, it was about to be revealed. As the starship prepared for launch, the crew felt a growing sense of unease. The message had been decoded, the coordinates set, and the course charted, but the unknown stretched out before them like an endless void. The tension was palpable in the control room as the crew worked together to ready the ship for the long journey ahead. The vastness of space seemed to weigh heavily on their minds. Elena stood at the bridge, overseeing the final checks. She couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for what was about to happen. They were venturing into uncharted territory, and the path ahead was uncertain at best. The rest of the crew, though capable and determined, were also aware of the risks. "All systems are green," Grant reported from the navigation console. "Course is set, and we're ready to go." Captain Harris, his face serious but calm, gave a brief nod. "Let's make history, people. We don't know what we'll find, but we do know one thing. We have to find out." With a final check of all systems, Elena gave the command to launch. The engines roared to life as the ship slowly lifted off the docking bay. Outside, the starfield seemed to pulse with the energy of an unseen force, as if the very stars themselves were aware of their mission. The ship's artificial gravity systems kicked in, and the crew braced themselves as they left the safety of their space station behind. The vastness of the galaxy stretched out before them, a dark sea of mystery that called them deeper into its fold. As the ship moved through the void, Elena couldn't help but glance out of the window, her mind racing. The coordinates led them to an area of space far from any known human settlements. No one had ever attempted to explore this sector, and the thought that they were the first to venture into such uncharted space filled her with both awe and fear. "We'll reach the coordinates in a little over a day," Harris remarked, breaking Elena's thoughts. "Prepare for anything. We don't know what kind of environment we'll encounter once we're there." Elena nodded. She knew this was just the beginning. There was so much more at stake. The warning from the dead civilizations was one thing, but the truth they would find at those coordinates was something else entirely. She couldn't help but wonder what was hidden there, waiting to be uncovered. Was it just a warning, or was it something more? As they traveled through the stars, Elena spent hours studying the data once more. She reviewed everything. The civilizations that had fallen, the messages they had left behind, and the mysterious words warning them about Earth. It didn't make sense. Earth had never been a prominent player in galactic affairs. No, they were just a small, young species on the fringe of space. So why were they receiving such a dire warning? A loud alert broke Elena's focus. "Captain, we're nearing the coordinates," Grant reported, his voice tense. "I'm picking up strange readings. Energy signatures, massive, and they're coming from the surface of a nearby planet." Elena's heart raced. The planet wasn't far. It was orbiting a dim, dying star on the outskirts of a barren system. The readings were unlike anything they'd encountered before, powerful, yet unnatural. "Lock onto those coordinates," Captain Harris ordered. "Prepare for orbital entry. We'll need to be cautious. Whatever this is, it's definitely not something we've seen before." The ship's engines adjusted as they began their descent toward the planet, the vastness of the galaxy around them suddenly seeming even more daunting. Elena felt her pulse quicken. She had been expecting something, but she hadn't prepared herself for this level of intensity. "Surface scans are coming online," Grant said. "It's an ancient structure buried beneath the planet's surface. The energy readings are consistent with some kind of large, dormant technology." The silence in the room was deafening. The ship's crew exchanged looks of disbelief. An ancient structure buried beneath the surface. A dormant, long-forgotten technology. "What kind of technology are we talking about here?" Harris asked, his voice low but sharp. Elena's fingers moved quickly over the console, bringing up all available scans of the planet. The structure was enormous, almost too large to comprehend. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. It was unlike anything Earth had ever built. "Captain, this looks like a massive, ancient defense system," Elena said slowly. "Whatever this is, it could be the key to understanding everything. The message, the warning, the connection to Earth. We need to get down there." Captain Harris turned to her, his expression serious. "Prepare an away team. We'll need to approach this with caution. We're dealing with something we know nothing about. If this is what I think it is, Earth's entire future could depend on what we find." The crew made their final preparations, putting on their spacesuits and loading up their gear. Elena's mind was racing, and as she checked her equipment one last time, she couldn't help but wonder. Was this truly the answer to the mysteries they had been chasing? Or were they stepping into something much darker, something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined? With a final look at the unknown planet below, the team prepared to descend. They were about to uncover the truth behind the warning, and nothing would ever be the same again. The landing on the planet was uneventful, but the crew couldn't shake the sense that they were being watched. The barren, desolate landscape stretched out around them like an ancient graveyard, the dust and ash swirling in the air. The wind howled eerily through the jagged rocks, carrying with it an unsettling silence. Elena's boots crunched against the dry ground as she led the away team toward the source of the strange energy readings. The structure they had detected from orbit lay hidden beneath the surface, and their scanners confirmed its exact location. It was deep underground, buried under layers of rock, and its immense size was almost impossible to comprehend. It was clear this wasn't just a relic of some ancient civilization. It was something far more significant, something that had been carefully preserved for millennia. As they approached the entrance, a massive worn doorway began to emerge from the rocky cliffs. The entrance was adorned with strange symbols none of them recognized, but they had a familiarity to them that sent a shiver down Elena's spine. The door was ancient, its surface cracked and weathered, but it was still standing strong, as if guarding the secrets within. "We need to be careful," Captain Harris cautioned, his voice steady, but the tension in his eyes betrayed his calm demeanor. "We don't know what we're dealing with here. Stay alert." Elena nodded, her hand resting on the sidearm at her hip. She had been in her share of dangerous situations, but this was different. There was something about this place that felt wrong. Something primal stirred in her gut, warning her to stay cautious. As they entered, the temperature dropped, and the air grew thick with dust. The faint glow of their torches illuminated the walls, revealing more symbols, this time etched into the stone. The markings were intricate, almost alien in their design, but one thing was clear: they were meant to convey a message. But the question was, what did it mean? "I've never seen anything like this before," said Dr. Hayes, the team's archaeologist. "This structure is far older than anything we've discovered. It could be the work of an entirely different civilization, one we don't know about." Elena studied the symbols closely. There was something deeply unsettling about them. As she moved deeper into the chamber, the walls seemed to close in around her. She could feel the weight of the structure pressing down on her, as though the very building was alive, waiting for them to uncover its secrets. The further they went, the more the air grew dense, as if it were heavy with forgotten knowledge. Finally, they'd reached the center of the chamber, a large circular room filled with strange machinery. It was covered in dust and debris, but its sheer size and complexity were undeniable. It looked like an engine of some kind, but its purpose was unclear. "Look at this," Elena whispered, kneeling down to examine a piece of machinery that appeared to have been preserved in time. She brushed away the layers of dust to reveal a set of glowing blue symbols embedded into the surface. "Is it still functioning?" Grant asked, his voice filled with awe. "I don't know," Elena said, standing up. "But it's something important. I can feel it. This technology is too advanced, too precise to be a coincidence." As they continued to explore, Alina's thoughts returned to the message. Never wake Earth. The dead civilizations had left it as a warning, but it was a warning about what? What was so dangerous about Earth that it could be feared by those who had long passed? Captain, Alina said suddenly, turning to Harris, her eyes wide. I think we found something we weren't meant to. This structure, it's not just a defense system. It's a prison. Harris' brow furrowed. A prison? What do you mean? Look at this. Alina gestured to the machinery, the strange energy readings flickering as they neared it. These devices, they look like they were designed to contain something. Something incredibly dangerous. The realization hit the crew like a wave. The dead civilizations had known something about Earth, something that had been kept hidden for eons. The structure before them was not merely a warning. It was a prison designed to keep something locked away, a prison with Earth as its jailer. Alina's mind raced as she pieced together the puzzle. The civilizations had warned Earth because they knew. They had known Earth had the power to destroy. But it wasn't the power of their weapons or military forces. No, Earth had something far more terrifying locked away. Perhaps Earth had been the one that imprisoned whatever threat was being kept here. A force so dangerous that entire empires had fallen in the past to prevent its release. Captain, Alina continued, her voice heavy, we need to report back to the ship. This place. It's not just an ancient ruin. It's a warning. Harris nodded grimly. Get to the ship. We need to get this information back to command, immediately. Whatever is here, it's not something we can face alone. As they turned to leave the chamber, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they had made a grave mistake by coming here. The structure was a prison, and they had unknowingly opened its doors. What had been locked away for so long? And why have the dead civilizations warned Earth so urgently? With each step they took back toward the ship, Alina's unease grew. They had come searching for answers, but now they had more questions than ever. One thing was certain. Earth's history was far darker and more complex than anyone had imagined. The truth they had uncovered would change everything. The crew made their way back to the ship quickly, the eerie silence of the ancient structure still fresh in their minds. The air around them seemed to hum with an unsettling energy, as though something was stirring, waiting to be unleashed. Alina's thoughts raced as they boarded the ship, each member visibly shaken by what they had discovered. We need to analyze everything we've brought back, Captain Harris ordered, his voice filled with urgency. We've uncovered something much bigger than we expected. I want a full report as soon as possible. Alina nodded, still deep in thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that they had touched something far more dangerous than they realized. The prison they had found wasn't just a relic of a dead empire. It was a warning from the past, a past that had seen entire civilizations fall because of what had been contained there. As they set off for their next destination, Alina stared at the data they had collected, trying to make sense of the symbols, the machinery, and the energy readings. Her eyes lingered on the blue glowing patterns etched into the machinery, a constant reminder of the terrifying truth they had uncovered. The civilizations that had warned Earth hadn't just feared what was inside. They had feared the power of Earth itself. The captain's voice broke through her thoughts. Alina, I need you to lead the analysis. We can't afford to make any mistakes. Whatever we found, it's not just about technology. There's something far more dangerous beneath it all. We need to understand what it means for Earth. Alina hesitated for a moment before nodding. She knew that they couldn't afford to ignore the warning. They had to learn everything they could, but at the same time, she felt a growing unease. Something about this discovery didn't sit right with her. The civilizations that had left this warning had known Earth's potential, but they had also understood its danger. She couldn't help but wonder if that danger was still buried deep within the planet, waiting to be awakened. The team spent hours in the ship's laboratory, poring over the data they had brought back. Dr. Hayes was already running simulations on the energy readings, trying to decipher the strange symbols they had found. There's a pattern here, he said, his voice tinged with excitement. These symbols, they're not just warnings. They're instructions. Instructions. Elena asked, intrigued despite herself. Yes, Dr. Hayes confirmed. I think these symbols are guiding us towards something. They're showing us how to access whatever is hidden within Earth's core. Elena's heart skipped a beat. You're saying there's something on Earth, something hidden beneath our feet. It's not just on Earth, Dr. Hayes corrected. It's within Earth. The civilizations that left this warning. They knew Earth was the jailer. But they also knew that Earth had been chosen to keep something locked away. Elena's mind raced. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but they created a terrifying picture. What if the ancient civilizations hadn't just left a warning for Earth? What if they had left Earth with the key to something far more dangerous? Something that could undo everything, destroy everything. Captain, Elena said, her voice steady but urgent, we need to get back to Earth. Now, we need to warn them about what we've uncovered. This isn't just an archaeological discovery, it's a ticking time bomb. Captain Harris looked at her, his expression grave. I agree. We can't afford to let this knowledge fall into the wrong hands. But we don't even know what we're dealing with yet. We know enough, Elena said, her voice low. Whatever is hidden beneath Earth, it's not something that was meant to be found. And now that we found it, we might have just unlocked something that the universe will never forgive us for. As the ship turned toward Earth, Elena couldn't help but feel a deep sense of dread. They had unlocked a Pandora's box, and there was no telling what might come out. The ancient civilizations had feared what was buried beneath Earth, and they had tried to warn anyone who would listen. But now it was too late. The truth was out there, and it was waiting to be unleashed. As the ship made its way back to Earth, the crew was on edge, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. They knew they were racing against time, and the stakes had never been higher. With each passing moment, the mystery of what lay beneath Earth's surface grew more urgent, more dangerous. Elena could feel the tension in the air, palpable and suffocating, as if the very planet they were headed toward was holding its breath. The ship's sensors were running a constant scan, searching for any signs of anomaly or disturbance. Dr. Hayes had not stopped working since their departure from the mysterious site. His eyes glued to the data screens, running simulations, making calculations, but even he was beginning to sense the magnitude of the situation. Elena, you need to see this, Dr. Hayes said, his voice tight with anxiety. He motioned for her to join him at the station, and as she approached, he pointed to the screen. A new set of symbols had appeared, symbols they had never seen before, complex and incomprehensible. What is it? Elena asked, her pulse quickening. I'm not sure, Dr. Hayes replied. But it's coming from Earth. It's like something is calling to us. Whatever is buried down there, it's aware of our presence. Elena's heart raced. A sense of foreboding washed over her, as though the planet itself had just woken up to the fact that they were heading straight for it. The crew's uncertainty about what they had uncovered had turned into fear of what might be waiting for them back home. It's like the planet is alive, Elena murmured, her mind racing. And now it knows we're coming. Exactly, Dr. Hayes said, his voice grim. Whatever is buried on Earth, it knows. And I think it's waking up. Elena turned toward Captain Harris, who had been quietly observing the exchange. What do we do now? She asked. We prepare for the worst, Captain Harris replied, his voice unwavering despite the growing tension. We don't know what's waiting for us, but we need to be ready for anything. The crew sprang into action, double-checking all systems, securing the ship, and ensuring their weapons were ready. Everyone knew that this wasn't just about a scientific discovery anymore. This was a matter of survival. The planet, Earth itself, had a secret, a terrible one. And now they had stumbled upon it. Hours passed, but it felt like days. The closer they got to Earth, the more the sense of danger grew. Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, waiting for them to make the final approach. Her fingers danced nervously over the console as she ran the ship's systems through one last diagnostic. Captain, we've arrived, Elena said, her voice steady despite the storm of anxiety inside her. Captain Harris stood up and nodded. "Prepare for landing. We need to get to the surface and find out exactly what this is." As the ship descended toward Earth, the atmosphere felt different, thicker, as if the world below was cloaked in some unseen shroud. The transmission they had intercepted earlier flickered again, the strange symbols flashing across their screens, this time with more intensity, almost as if urging them to hurry. The team had no choice but to follow the call. The unknown was waiting, and they had to face it. The ship's landing gear thudded against the surface as they touched down. Alina's stomach twisted with anticipation. The world below them seemed eerily quiet, as though it too was holding its breath, waiting. "We need to move quickly," Captain Harris said, his voice sharp as he gathered the crew together. "Stay alert. Whatever we find here, it's not just a threat to us. It's a threat to everyone on Earth." Alina led the team out of the ship, stepping cautiously onto the barren land. The terrain was desolate, ancient ruins scattered across the landscape, remnants of a time long gone. There was something unsettling about the place, an unnatural stillness hanging in the air, as if the very soil knew that something ancient had been disturbed. They approached a large structure in the distance, its jagged edges broken and worn by time. As they neared, Alina's mind raced with questions. Was this the prison they had discovered in the data? Was it a warning, or was it something much more dangerous? The ground beneath their feet began to tremble. "Get ready," Captain Harris shouted. "Something's happening." And then, without warning, the earth opened up before them. A blinding light shot out from the depths, engulfing them all. Alina's breath caught in her throat as a strange energy crackled around them, sending vibrations through her entire body. The symbols they had seen earlier appeared in the sky, glowing with an intensity she had never witnessed. "We're too late," Alina whispered, her voice trembling with realization. "The prison, it's breaking open." The crew watched in shock as the ancient, long-forgotten prison began to stir. What had been sealed away for millennia was now free, and Earth was no longer the jailer. It was the prisoner. A deafening roar erupted from the depths of the earth, and the crew knew, with a bone-deep certainty, that they were no longer in control. The ancient civilizations had been right to warn Earth, but it was too late to turn back now. The monster had been unleashed, and there was no telling what destruction it would bring. The crew had no choice but to fight, but would it be enough to stop what they had awoken? The race for survival had begun, and Earth's darkest secrets were about to come to light. "You said." The tremors shook the ground beneath their feet, growing stronger by the second. Alina's heart raced as she gripped the handle of her blaster, her knuckles turning white. The strange, pulsing light from the depths grew brighter, and the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. It was as if something ancient was stirring, something so powerful and dangerous that it had been buried away for millennia. "What the hell is happening?" Dr. Hayes shouted, his voice barely audible over the growing rumble. He looked around, his face pale with fear. This shouldn't be possible. Alina glanced at Captain Harris, who was scanning the area, his face hard and focused. "It's some kind of containment breach," he said, his voice grim. "Whatever was trapped here, it's been freed." The ground trembled even more violently now, and the structures around them began to crack and break apart. From the center of the opening, a dark shape began to emerge. At first, it was just a shadow, but then it grew, revealing itself to be an enormous, writhing mass of energy and matter, an ancient creature, its form indistinct and constantly shifting. Alina felt a chill run down her spine as she took in the sight. The creature's movements were erratic, and its presence filled the air with an eerie, suffocating weight. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, its form constantly shifting, changing, as though it couldn't decide what it was. One moment it looked like a monstrous serpent, the next it appeared as an unholy fusion of limbs and jagged dark tendrils. "We need to get out of here," Dr. Hayes yelled, panic rising in his voice. But Captain Harris shook his head. a fierce determination in his eyes. "No. We stay. We fight. We end this now, before it can reach Earth." The crew, though terrified, knew there was no other choice. They had come too far, uncovered too much. They couldn't just turn back and leave Earth's fate in the hands of an unstoppable force. The creature let out a roar that seemed to shake the very air around them, its voice like the crackling of a million flames. It surged forward, its mass expanding and contracting, as though it were testing the air, preparing for the final push to break free from its ancient prison. Elena steadied her breath, focusing on the task at hand. "We need to destroy whatever is keeping it contained," she said. "There must be a way to reverse whatever's happened." The team quickly searched the area, hoping to find any kind of technology or mechanism that could help them. Dr. Hayes, frantically typing into his datapad, suddenly looked up with wide eyes. "Wait, there's a way. It's an ancient system, but it's still operational. There's a core device beneath the surface. It's what kept the creature locked away all this time." Captain Harris nodded, his mind already calculating their next move. "We'll need to reach that device before it's too late." They sprinted toward a nearby entrance to what looked like an underground facility. The air grew colder as they descended, the darkness enveloping them. The creature's roar echoed above them, and every step they took felt like a race against time. When they reached the control room, the dim lights flickered to life, and Elena's heart skipped a beat as she saw the core device, a massive machine, pulsing with the same dark energy that the creature exuded. It was built with a strange, alien technology, its intricate design a testament to a civilization long dead. Elena approached the machine cautiously, her fingers trembling as she worked to interface with it. "I think I can override the system," she muttered, "but it's going to take time. We need to buy ourselves some time." The rest of the crew took defensive positions around the room, weapons drawn, eyes scanning every shadow. The creature above them let out another deafening roar, its power palpable, vibrating through the walls. Elena's mind raced as she worked furiously to disable the containment breach. The clock was ticking, and she knew that the creature would be on them soon, relentless in its pursuit to free itself. Just as she activated the final override, the ground shook again, this time violently. The air became thick with energy, and a brilliant flash of light filled the room. Elena's eyes were momentarily blinded, and she stumbled back, unable to see. But when her vision cleared, she saw the creature, now fully formed, standing at the entrance to the facility, its form towering over them. It had broken through the barriers that had once contained it. "It's too strong," Dr. Hayes whispered, his face pale with terror. "We can't stop it. We have to leave now." But Captain Harris stood firm, his jaw clenched. "No, we finish this here, or it's the end for Earth." With the creature now fully unleashed, the crew had no choice but to fight with everything they had. The stakes were clear. Either they would stop the ancient terror, or Earth would become its new prison. The battle for Earth's survival had begun, and there was no turning back.